in the right meeting? Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order, school board meeting for August 8, 2018. We're going to begin, if you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Board members, do we have any additions to the agenda this evening? No agenda additions. Dr. Aguilar, do you have any opening comments for tonight?
Yes, sir. Good evening, board members. As you know, today was the first day of attendance for students in the Lafayette Parish school system. It's always an exciting time of the year for our students, parents, teachers, and administrators. I would like to thank all of our employees who have been working towards this day for the past several months. Their efforts, which are often behind the scenes, allow for a successful school opening and a start of a new school year. I personally visited 9 schools today, and my administrative team and district staff were also in the schools supporting our principals and teachers as they welcomed the students onto the campuses. I would like to say thanks to the civic organizations, including the 100 Black Men of Greater Lafayette, Unity 7, UL Athletics, our law enforcement agencies, and our fire departments. We're all out today visiting on campuses in support of our children. Here are a few quick observations from my visits today. While visiting Karen Crowe High and Lafayette Middle, I am very happy to say that the air conditioners were up and running in the gyms, and it was incredibly comfortable. After visiting Milton Elementary School first thing this morning at 6:30, I want to reiterate that that campus had 14 leased buildings 12 months ago, and we returned those leased buildings at a cost savings to this board of $148,000 for this upcoming school year. Finally, we have begun looking at the initial student counts in the schools. While enrollment counts will change over the next few weeks, it appears that enrollment in the district will grow by several hundred students. That's the prediction. I want to thank the parents and stakeholders of the district for having the confidence in our teachers and schools and the school board as we work towards continued academic growth. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to move on to the informational items. First informational items is a list of bids approved to be advertised by the superintendent. And board members, the list is there. Any questions on that? And I will read it off. This is a list of bids for Chromebook cases, the elementary school playground pavilions package 1 and package 2, and then the career center HVAC of a gym and robotics area. All right, next item on the agenda is the personnel changes for August 8th.
Good evening, board. I have 2 assistant principals I'd like to introduce to you tonight. The first one is the assistant principal for Karen Crowe Heights Elementary School, Gabrielle Mergis. Ms. Mergis graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree from UL Lafayette, a Master of Science from UL Lafayette, and with an educational specialist from Arkansas State University. She has served as a 5th grade teacher at S.J. Montgomery and as a school counselor at Falk Elementary School, Paul Breaux Elementary Middle School, and at Woodville Elementary School. Ms. Mergis?
Hello, I'm Gabrielle Mergis. Can y'all hear me okay? Yeah. Good, okay. I'm Gabrielle Mergis. I'm originally from Erath, Louisiana. I am very excited to be at Karen Crowe Heights with Miss Mesa. I think that's who I want to thank first for this opportunity, Miss Alicia Mesa. I also want to thank our Miss Trosclair and Miss Reiners for this great opportunity. I think my time at J.W. Falk really opened my eyes to children who are in need and where you can make the biggest difference, and I'm very happy to be back in that type of environment. As you can see, I came in my Karen Crow Heights gear. I had every intention of changing into a suit, but this is real life, and this is what happens. So I hope y'all are okay with that. Thank you to the board and everyone, and I can't wait to show the growth that we can show at Karen Crow Heights. So thank y'all.
Next, I'd like to introduce the new assistant principal at Milton Elementary Middle School, Shannon Juneau, who earned a Bachelor of Arts degree from UL Lafayette and a Master of Education degree from the American College of Education. Ms. Juneau began her career as a fourth grade teacher at Woodville Elementary School. She then transferred to Milton Elementary Middle School, where she served as a teacher for 15 years. She has currently been serving in the role as a technology facilitator for the district. Ms. Juneau.
I'm very nervous. This makes me very nervous. But I would like to thank the board, first of all, and Dr. Aguilar, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Ms. Trosclair, Mr. Craig, and is Ms. Aloisio? And Ms. Aloisio, thank you so much for everything that you did. And of course, Ms. Broussard, it has been a whirlwind. I've been there for a week, and wow, I have learned so much already from you and from Adrian. So thank you so much. And I can just say I spent 15 years at Milton, and I'm glad to be home. So thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Angel.
Yes, I'd like to welcome the new hirees, in particular, Ms. Merges from going to Karen Crow Heights. Yes, I have a couple of comments. First of all, as a lifelong resident of Karen Crow, I'd like to welcome you to our school and to our community. And secondly, you look fine just the way you are.
All right, next item on the agenda is school duty schedules. I've got Mr. Santani. Is this yours? Sorry. Mr. Cole. So Mr. Cole is the president of the Lafayette Parish Association of Educators.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jonathan Cole. I am president of LPAE and also serve in the district as a high school teacher. I want to thank Mr. Santani, our board member from District 6, for basically allowing us to speak with you tonight about a couple of issues that we consider to be of pressing importance. In 2016, the superintendent and I began a conversation on the topic of duty assignments for teachers and staff. Concerns about duty assignments are one of the main phone calls that we receive at our organization's office. And we field questions like, do I have to eat lunch with my students? How often am I supposed to do duty? When can I go to the bathroom? And the answer is, well, it depends. Because you see, when it comes to schools and duty schedules in our district, each school makes decisions. We all are aware that each school is a little different requirements, the geography is different, and the size of the staff is different. That is not in dispute. But our concern is that principals, when they are making duty schedules, we're asking for them to get some guidance from the central office about what is considered acceptable and safe for the kids, while also respecting the duty requirements and the fact that teachers are asking for a lunch break or a bathroom break. One thing that we're concerned about is that Bulletin 741, which is our administrative handbook, in section 911 mentions that teachers, specifically duty teachers who are teaching individual classes or working with kids in an area of responsibility, are entitled to 30 minutes of lunch each day. Also 45 minutes of planning, unencumbered. The vocabulary of shall is also used in section 911. The section goes on to say that this time shall be duty-free. Our office compiled a list of case law that we forwarded to the superintendent's office for consultation with board counsel concerning liability requirements for schools, specifically about duty ratios. Generally, Louisiana courts have held that a ratio of 1 teacher to 100 students is acceptable for determining duty, liability, and responsibility on our school playgrounds and cafeterias. Our contention is that the district uses a much smaller ratio. In some schools, it may be as low as 1 duty teacher for every 30 students. Without getting too much into the weeds on this, our recommendations that we've shared with central office staff include suggestions for optimizing our resources that are available to our principals. And no way do we want to tie the hands of principals, but rather we want to make sure that there is district-wide guidance for how things are played out. I'm going to make the files available that I've shared with the superintendent's staff in good faith. I'll make those files available to whoever wants them, to parents, to teachers, to administrators, to you, and the hope that this information will assist the district in adopting an administrative rule that provides guidance to principals concerning the number of duty sessions adults are required to perform. We want to make it clear to members of this community that there are workers in this parish who do not regularly receive a lunch break at all. In many cases, the lunch break is only 15 minutes. Mr. President, as an employer, you can see the benefit of a reasonable break period for rest, meals, and restroom needs. I don't believe it to be a coincidence that the burnout rate among employees is on the rise while duty assignments continue to grow. There are other reasons for critical staff shortages, of course. We're just asking and stating that this should not be ignored. The superintendent is to be commended for taking the lead in handling an issue like this. It has not been addressed before because it is such a great challenge. I'm confident that central office staff will develop a plan that preserves the basic rights for workers in our district while ensuring the ongoing operation of our elementary, middle, and high schools in Lafayette. As always, I will continue to work as the president of our organization in whatever capacity the superintendent deems necessary. And I will continue to offer our services and our assistance. So I appreciate the time. I'm glad that we can start a conversation and that we can move forward in an issue that is long overdue. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Mr. Centani.
Mr. Cole, I'd like to thank you for contacting and bringing this to my attention. I certainly appreciate the effort that you're putting forth and the effort that the superintendent and his staff is putting forth to make sure that the teachers and the staff get the time in the day necessary to achieve, getting the students educated, as well as using the bathroom and eating lunch and things like that. So I think it's very important. Thank you for shining a light on this.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to do now is read the consent agenda. At this point in the meeting, board members I'm going to read the list from top to bottom. Board members will then notify me if they would like me to pull an item for further discussion. Then at the end of that, we will vote on the things that we do not pull for approval. At that point, you can discuss any of those items, and then we'll go back to the items that we do pull for further discussion. So 3.1, rename Plantation Elementary. 3.2, rename NP Moss Preparatory School. 3.3, revision of school choice administrative rule. 3.4, RFP for entities to provide contract bus drivers on call possessing required CDL licenses. I would like to pull that myself. 3.5, consider modifications to the approved 2018-2019 pupil progression plan. 3.6, student parent handbook and pupil progression plan alignment. 3.7, review for feasibility helicopter aviation certification at SLCC. I would like to pull that. 3.8, implementation of SRO standard operating procedure. 3.9, child nutrition services, approval of bid award for 3119 kitchen equipment. 3.10, BO Elementary School change order for additional classrooms. 3.11, approval of architects and engineers for small projects. 3.12, approval of quotes for Truman Early Childhood Center freezer cooler replacement. 3.13, ratification of approval of quotes for Northside High Building 600 cleaning. 3.14, approval of utility servitude with Lafayette Utility System, Como High School. 3.15, resolution 08181939, advertise and award oil and gas mineral lease for section 16 property in Dusau. 316, grant fund summary, June of 2018, final. 317, approved bid award, library periodicals, bid number 2819. 318, budget to actual reports. 319, resolution 08181940, authorization of notice to call for redemption of series 2008 bonds maturing on April 1st, 2019. 320, approved bid award, used sped school buses, diesel engine, bid number 3519. 321, approved bid award, new sped school buses, gasoline, bid number 3619. 322, revised bond and pay-as-you-go project listing.
Pull that one, please.
323, approved bid award, Chromebook cases. 324, grant permission to lease former Logan's Roadhouse site, section 16. Approval to, 325, approval to sell the current sales tax office building site at 411 East Vermilion Street. 326, approval of budget revisions to capital improvement fund and general fund. 327, budget revision to capital improvement fund and general fund. 328, Southside High architects fees. 329, approved bid award, library books, bid number 2719. 330, approved bid award, early childhood education supplies, bid number 3319. 331, revisions to 2018-2019 salary schedule booklet. 332, employee salary reclassifications. 333, policy BC school board meetings. 334, approval of minutes. And 335, approval of all action consent items.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve all items not pulled.
We have a motion by Mr. Latchley and a second by Mr. Angel to approve all consent agenda items not pulled. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have pulled 31, 32, 34, 37, 322. So the motion right now is to approve everything else we did not pull. So if you would like to discuss any of those items, this would be the time right now. Including, yes, everything on here, pupil progression plan, or anything else on here that you would like to discuss. So if you're here to talk, you want to speak on pupil progression plan or any of the other items that we have not pulled, this would be the time for public comment. Okay, any board member comment on the items not pulled? Mr. Hidalgo.
Yes. Mr. Craig, item 3.8, the SRO standard operating procedures. I was just curious as what is the process that you use? Were you able to reach out to all of the agencies regarding this document?
Yes, sir. In fact, my contact with the Sheriff's Department, the chain of command, Sergeant Tony Ashe, I think he's sergeant, he has provided that information to through the chain of command to all the different municipalities. We actually met together as a group, the supervisors, last Friday, I believe, and that actually came up, is to have the SOPs put out to everybody, and Sergeant released those, or Captain Tony, I'm sorry, I apologize for the rank. He actually presented that to all the municipalities earlier this week. They've seen it. They're comfortable with it. It's very, the forms are very typical to what we've used in the past. They're just now completely standardized.
Thank you.
All right, any other comment about Mr. Broussard?
Mr. President, we didn't pull 3.5 and 3.6, but it was on the agenda last meeting. I asked why was it placed on the agenda with all the questions being asked about it. Was it up for comment, question, concern? I thought it was a finished deal.
I believe I mean, we certainly voted on it and we approved it. But as with anything, I think we have the opportunity to revisit decisions that we make. So that I think that it was put on the agenda for an opportunity for public comment or any more board member comment regarding some of the comments we received on the pupil progression plan. So this would be the time for us to discuss it if we have any comments or questions.
If permitted, I would like to speak briefly on that.
Yes, sir.
Being I'm the only one that opposed it, I'm still opposing it. And reasons why, especially the homework portion of it. I think our teachers do a good job as far as trying to teach our students the necessary things they need to know, and to ask them to take an additional 5 or 10 minutes to recap something that should have been done the night before or the week before, or whatever the case may be, is a bit much. Again, this is my opinion. I think a student not doing their homework, not preparing for the next day is a negative. And what's going to happen, what normally happens, is that they're going to trying to put 9 weeks of studying into one night to pass a test that is difficult to pass on normal circumstances. So that's my take on it. I still disagree with it, probably the only one. And to the 3.6, I think if you're caught cheating, you should be punished. Should not get a slap on the wrist. Only part about cheating, what's wrong with it, is getting caught. If you don't get caught, you're not know you're cheating. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board member comment on these items or any of the items not pulled? Then I'll hand the gavel, pass it on. I do have a few comments on that while we're discussing it, and it's mainly just a few comments. Certainly received some concern questions regarding both the homework and the cheating policy changes. We did discuss the homework changes pretty extensively at the last meeting. We did not discuss extensively the cheating issues. And for staff, I think when we make monumental changes in policy, we as board members get a whole lot of documentation. I think it would help us if you kind of pointed out major monumental changes that we may not have seen in the fine print of the 90-page document. But with that, we did receive some comment, and I'll tell you, I'm a little troubled by it. You know, I went to a school that if you cheated, you got kicked out of the school. And, you know, there's a price to pay. At the same time, I understand and I put my faith in you that if you tell us that we need to separate conduct offenses or offenses of cheating versus academics assessments, I would say I have to have faith in you. I understand that, you know, separating the two and punishing a student for cheating and disciplining them may be a better path than giving them a 0, because you still have the obligation to educate the child. I understand that. I understand the logic behind it. It's different, and it's tough for us to, I think it's tough for a lot of people to swallow immediately that the penalty for cheating is not a 0 on a test. My concern is, and I gave Mr. Hidalgo and I were talking earlier today, I have a scenario for you. Jeremy and I are taking a test. It's a tough test. I decide to cheat on the test. I get caught cheating on the test. I pay the price, whether it's in-school suspension or whatever that price is. I also, because I cheated and I obviously can't take that test again, I have to take the test again. So time passes and I have more of an opportunity to study. Jeremy took the test. He didn't cheat. He got a B. I had an opportunity to study a little longer because I cheated. I got caught. I got punished. Probably spent a lot of that time studying. So I take the test and I get an A. How is that fair? That's what I have in a problem, especially if we're competitive. When I was in high school, it was extremely competitive. I competed against my classmates for scholarships. So that's where I see a problem in it. Now, educating students and what we do here is not perfect, and we have the opportunity to perfect things as we move forward and evolve into improving things. But I do think that that may be a secondary effect of this policy, is that we are going to reward students with extra time to study, which may reflect with better grades. And I just don't know if that's necessarily fair to the students who didn't cheat. So with that, I will take the gavel back. I'm not really asking for comment at this point. It's just observations. Mr. Broussard.
It's a great scenario. You got caught cheating. Had you not got caught cheating, you would accept that A for cheating and went on by your business. But you flunked the test. You got caught cheating, so you went back and you done your homework. So you done your homework, or you studied. You studied.
Yep.
You studied. So you done your homework, regardless of how you put it. You done your homework and you passed the test. Homework is important. Being punished for cheating should be just as important.
Thank you. Mr. Santani.
Might I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
So you went home and studied?
Yep.
And you got an A?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you earned that A?
I did, but it wasn't fair to Mr. Hidalgo.
Why is it not fair to Mr. Hidalgo?
Because I got extra time.
Did he earn the B?
He earned his B, but if he had extra time like I did, he might have gotten an A.
So let's give him extra time. Let's let him retake the test.
Well, it becomes perpetual.
He went home and studied.
But with that, any other board member comment? Dr. Chasson.
I was thinking maybe consider some penalty, maybe 20% off the test or some type of penalty, and you get a chance to retake the test, but then there's some type of penalty, maybe a percentage off or something. Maybe it's just a thought.
Dr. Chasson.
Really quickly, I want to give the other side of what you guys were speaking about. When it comes to a kid that decides to cheat, that kid feels like there is no other possible way for them to pass said test, so they decide to cheat. So after a life lesson is learned and you get caught, 9 times out of 10 that kid is not a good student if they chose to cheat. 9 times out of 10 that kid probably ends up failing a grade along the path of K through 12. I would say 9 times out of 10 that kid has a strong possibility of dropping out. If you decide to cheat, you're pretty much taking it upon yourself that, yeah, I'm going to have some trouble. So that kid is one of those kids that struggle, that ends up falling through the cracks. Now, I've always disagreed with giving the kid a 0. I think you should have the opportunity to take the test and try your hardest. Now, I would still say 90% of the time, 9 times out of 10, that kid is not going to turn around and study and make an A on the test. It's not going to happen. Same thing with a kid getting suspended. You're already getting suspended, you're getting yourself in trouble, you're possibly recommended for expulsion, and you're getting 0s on all exams. Now, if you're getting yourself into trouble, you're probably not that good of a student in the first place. So if you're going to give me 0s for work that I can still do and at least try to get some of the credit for, not 50% of the credit, you should deserve a chance at 100% of the credit, because you're already facing an uphill battle. You're probably going to drop out. You're not going to graduate with your cohort, and we're going to lose those kids. So if we can possibly catch some along the way and say, hey, listen, you got caught, now you need to actually study, and if you choose to not study, that's on you. But if he studies or she studies, makes a C, they at least realize, well, maybe I'm capable of doing the work, and maybe we catch that kid. But in giving that kid a 0 or earning all 0s for cheating or getting yourself in trouble, that kid's already facing an uphill battle. So by us mandating what the teacher is allowed to give, it doesn't do us any good. That kid needs to be allowed to earn all possible credit, because that kid is probably struggling in the first place. So I just wanted that to be said.
Mr. Hidalgo.
Mr. Kinesic, first I want to thank you for using me as the example. I don't know why I got the B and you got the A, but I appreciate it. Yeah. I agree with what you're saying. However, I tend to believe that little Johnny who cheated, it's highly likely that he doesn't care about a 0. And so I think it's more of a punishment not to allow him to retest, but to make him retest. He's already getting his disciplinary punishment for cheating. I think we're hurting the teachers, the school, and the system when we give 0s. And by the way, I don't know if we're in the business to give grades. We can't give A's, so why can we give F's? I think we should do our best to educate every child. If they get caught cheating, they should take the punishment. You also use another example with me when we spoke earlier, and I'm not calling you out. It was a prime example. You know, your child refuses to eat. You try to teach them that they have to eat. You give them some punishment, but the punishment is not feeding your child. So I think that we have to, I don't think this is new. I think this is pretty old, actually. I think we're behind the curveball on this. I think this is done nationwide. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I've been told by many educators here that this is the way that everyone we're competing against, who we're always told we're last in everything, well, this is what they're doing. So I think it's a no-brainer, and that it's our job to teach the kid. If they cheat, they should serve the time. But I don't think they should be punished twice for the same offense.
Thank you. Any other board member comment on this item or on any of the items on the consent agenda not pulled? All right, Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Nine for, none against.
All right, consent agenda passes. Next item on the agenda is 3.1, rename Plantation
Mr.
Elementary.
President, I'll make a
Ms.
motion
Morris.
that the board approve the renaming of Plantation Elementary to Corporal Michael Middlebrook Elementary School.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Morris, a second by Mr. Angel to rename Plantation Elementary for Corporal Michael Middlebrook. At this time, do we have any public comment on this item? Chief?
Well, good evening, everybody. Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, and members of the public, faculty and staff, the Middlebrook family. I'm Toby Aguilar, Chief of Police in Lafayette. I have to say that when word got to my office that you all were considering naming a school after Michael Paul Middlebrook, we were all very touched. As Chief of Police, I can tell you that Michael was an exceptional person and an exceptional officer. He gave his life for our city and for our citizens. I can tell you that all the stories you've heard about him in the recent months were true. The stories of valor and heroism. And he is worthy of this honor, which we all consider a great honor. I can think of no greater monument to Michael than to name a school after him. A place where kids will learn and their laughter will almost continuously be around and be heard. So from the bottom of my heart, I wanted to say thank you for this consideration. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chief. Do we have any other public comment?
I'm Pat Sonny, a retired teacher, and I want to thank you for letting me comment to this. I'm opposed to the name change, not the fact that you want to name it after Corporal Middlebrook, because I think he's very deserving of an honor. But this school has been in operation for 50 years. It's one of the top elementary schools in the parish. A lot of children have been through that school. And, you know, there are the adults living in the parish now. And I'm just opposed to changing the name of the school. I think we may, in the future, name a school after Corporal Middlebrook, you know, because of what he's given to the community. But this is an established school, and all of the students that went there, as they're going to think about, well, my childhood school's not there anymore. They didn't care about my school. And we need to care about everybody's school. You know, there are a lot of people that have given their life for this country. Recently, 2 of the students from Lafayette High, one in Afghanistan and one in Iraq, gave their life. They just graduated. The procession for those students passed in front of the schools. And, you know, this country owes those children, because they didn't even have a chance to live their life. They were like 18 or 19 years old, which is, you know, I hate talking about sad things, because life is always better, but we have to face it sometimes. But I do not want to change the name of the school. We are building schools in Lafayette like it's going out of style. When new schools are built, bring the name up again and name that school after him. A new start. But this is an established school, and let's let those children continue to live and learn at the schools that have been there. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Any other public comment on this item?
Good evening. I'm Sergeant Toby Delahousie. I'm with the Lafayette Police Department. I'm here representing the Fraternal Order of Police, Local Lodge, John Q. Hyde, Lodge number 5. As a member of the Fraternal Order of Police, we are here to support the change of Plantation Elementary to the Corporal Michael Middlebrook Elementary. I personally served with Mike on the road. We worked side by side together. Like the chief said, all the stories that you've heard about him are absolutely true. I think it's an absolute honor that the school, that Ms. Herman, the principal, came forth with this suggestion, that the bill was sponsored by yourself and Ms. Morris. I think that it is it's an honor for us to know that the community is able to look at what we do and the sacrifices that are made on a daily basis by law enforcement across the country, and when it hit home here in Lafayette, that sort of recognition is there. So I'm here to represent our local lodge. I also have received a letter from our state lodge, penned by the vice president of the state lodge, also providing support for this recommendation. If I may, I'd like to read the letter. It was penned by the vice president, Kelly Gibson. It reads as such: Lafayette Parish School Board, thank you for your consideration of renaming Plantation Elementary in memory of Corporal Michael Middlebrook. Corporal Middlebrook's life and death embodied the universally adopted motto of law enforcement: to protect and serve. As an officer of the Lafayette Police Department, Corporal Middlebrook had a reputation as a man who was willing to accept the responsibility not only to enforce the law, but as a man who provided public service to his community. Corporal Middlebrook's dedication to his profession and to the citizens he served is an example of all law enforcement officers to follow. The Louisiana Fraternal Order of Police wholeheartedly supports the renaming of Plantation Elementary to honor a fallen hero, Corporal Michael Middlebrook. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this item?
Good evening. My name is Corporal Scott Rummel. I work for the Lafayette Police Department. I'm also the current president of the Police Association of Lafayette. We just wanted to be able to show our support as well. And I think that there's a couple things, especially after hearing some of the discussion here tonight, that I would like to bring up about police and in particular Corporal Middlebrook. So I'll start with this: duty, honor, and respect. As something that these characteristics are instilled into our trainees when they come to the Lafayette Police Department. We go out on the road every day and perform our job keeping those three things in mind. We have to be able to perform our duties and serve the citizens, serve the community. We have officers that go above and beyond those three basic things. Corporal Middlebrook was one of them. I also hired Corporal Middlebrook, watched him go through training, watched him become the officer that he is or was. And I can tell you that, you know, this guy was one of the best. He figured it out. He figured it out in his time with us, what it took, the balance it took to be a good police officer and a good police officer that serves his community. Not only was he a good police officer for the administration, he was a good officer, he never got in trouble, but he served the community. He reached out to those that needed it. And when you talk to the guys that he worked with, one of the things, or a couple of the things they would say, was that he was honorable and he was trustworthy. Not only to the department, if you told him as a supervisor or as a senior guy, hey, look, Mike, I need you to go do this, it was getting done. But in the community, if he told you, hey, these are the things that are going on, this is what's happening, this is what I have to do, it was happening. Or if I can cut you a break because you're being honest with me, I'm going to do that as well. That's something, that characteristic, just that alone, is not something that every officer carries. Some are by the book, and there's no leeway, and they're doing their job. But somebody who can reach the community and work with people in the community will gain that respect, and that'll eventually help them in the long run when it comes to investigations or whatever it could be. Duty, honor, and respect. Trustworthiness, like we'd mentioned, that's something, these characteristics could be taught to kids in school, and it should be. They should have honor. They should be trustworthy. And if you rename the school after Corporal Middlebrook, these are things that can be taught within that school. Live like he lived. He's a good man, a great family man, a good police officer, a great police officer, and he had high values for himself. And that's something that we need to pass on to the younger generation. When you talk about being responsible, you got to be responsible for yourself. This is a man that was. And I could tell you that I don't think anything would make me more proud, even the officers that I'm looking at right now, nothing would make me more proud than to hear a call on the radio saying respond to the Middlebrook Elementary. That would be something great to hear, as long as it was good, of course. So that, the other thing is that I noticed when I was looking at Plantation Elementary that their mascot is the Patriot. And I think that's important, especially when you talk about Michael Middlebrook, because he was also a patriot. He served in the military. He also served this community like we talked about. And if you define what a patriot is, and we all know somebody who's willing to serve their country, their community. And I think that that fits perfectly with Middlebrook. I think that this is a good fit. And I feel that if the name was changed, I agree that maybe some people that used to go to the school may not agree with it wholeheartedly, but I think if you're going to change it to this, for this particular person, for the values that they carried, I think that the majority of the people would be good with that. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment on this item?
I would just like to say publicly, as principal of Plantation, that I am in support of the change to Middlebrook Elementary, Corporal Michael Middlebrook Elementary School. Our school is a school of leadership. Corporal Michael Middlebrook was a leader in our community, and what a wonderful example for us to continue to educate our students with him as an example, as the name of our school. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this item? All right, I'm going to open it up to board member comment. Ms. Morris.
First, it was my honor to put my name on this agenda item, and I would like to acknowledge that tonight we do have with us Corporal Middlebrook's family, his wife and children, and his father, as well as several of his colleagues. I am definitely in support of this motion, and I would ask the rest of the board to support it as well.
Thank you. Mr. Hidalgo.
Mr. President, should this motion pass, when would it take effect?
Well, it's a good question. I guess it would be immediate because we would vote it into, we would vote the approval of the name, and then staff would then implement the name change. So it would be immediate. How soon they will get the sign up, I think that is dependent on vendors.
Thank you.
Ms. Morris?
It's my understanding that the parent organization there has already raised money for a new sign, so that can probably take place sooner rather than later. And I think there's some other name changes on T-shirts and letterhead, which might take over the course of a year to kind of cycle that through. But there's no reason that they can't start using the name at this time. And then by the beginning of next school year, everything should be any repainting of signs or anything of that nature. So.
Mr. Hidalgo.
Mr. President, Ms. Morris, did I hear you say that the parent-teacher organization, parent organization, has raised the funds to replace the sign?
Yes, that was before the idea of changing the name came up. They were looking to change the sign already, so that money is already there for a new sign at Plantation. Is that right, Ms. Herman?
Not all the money.
But partially.
The matching funds.
Right. So.
Oh, well. Ms. Morris, they raised about $9,000. So the lowest estimate we've seen is about $29,000 for the sign change.
Thank you.
Any other board member comment? Mr. Broussard?
I do support that, but just out of curiosity, Plantation was named Plantation Elementary for a reason. And I just need to ask the question, do anyone know why it was named Plantation Elementary? Do anyone have any history on it?
Ms. Morris?
I don't know how accurate this is, Mr. Broussard, but I believe that location was in the past where Long Plantation was located, and they have those condominiums or townhomes located right behind the school called Long Plantation. That's anecdotal, though I don't know that for a fact. But I think it's just the location of a plantation that existed in the past.
Any other board member comment? Dr. Chasson?
Yeah, really quick. Something's on my mind, so I just want to be sure to echo it. I think everybody up here is gonna be possibly unanimous. Maybe not. I'm not sure. I'm definitely in support of it, but I still want to make sure that everyone understands that the one person that got up to maybe speak not in complete support of it is still 100% in complete support of it. That lady that got up and spoke, she's a historian, and she understands that kids went through that system. She's in support of the change, but yet still not in support of change. And it's two separate things, and I want to make sure that everyone in this room, everyone at home, understands the complete difference. She agrees with the name change, but she disagrees with getting rid of the plantation name as well, because that's just who she is, and I understand it. So please, everyone, please, I need everyone to understand. She supports it. It's just, she's a historian, and she understands it better than anyone. With that being said, before we even vote, again, I'm in 100% support of it. I never got a chance to meet Officer Middlebrook, but I happen to have met and have been knowing his lovely wife for an extremely long time. And if she loved him and she's the sweetest person in the world, I mean, that speaks volumes to me as well. And I happen to know one of her kids extremely well, and they are the sweetest people in the world. We just sat together at a basketball game recently. My love and passion. So I'd encourage everyone to support it. Thanks.
Ms. Morrison.
I just wanted to say that I'm totally in support, and it's something about someone who loses their life when they're trying to help others. And every time I hear about it, it's just heartbreaking. And Corporal Middlebrook was an awesome person, and I'm very happy to support this, and I think we're doing a great thing. So just want to let you know. Thank you.
Mr. Latchley. Oh, I'm sorry. Any other board member comment? I'm just going to offer a quick comment to echo what Dr. Chasson said. Ms. Sonia definitely does care and definitely supports the memory, and just as he said, she's a historian. But with that, Ms. Sonia, I'd just like to say we do care about Plantation Elementary and the kids that went there and all the alumni, and sometimes it's just how you think about things. And if you think about the fact that we care about them so much that we would bestow upon them the honor of being named after Corporal Middlebrook, I think that exhibits how much we do care about them. LPSS cares, the community cares, and to the officers and to the family, I wish, obviously I wish we weren't talking about this today. I wish that, and I also wish there was more that we could do. I've said it many times, especially going through this SRO thing. My dad wore the same uniform. My dad retired Sergeant Dale Kinesic from Lafayette City Police Department. So I know the fear that you felt, and fortunately for me, I didn't. That fear never came to fruition, and I can't imagine the pain that you went through and that you're still going through. And I'm very sorry for your loss. And I wish that we could do more. But I think that's it for the comments on this. If there are any other board member comment? Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
9 for, none against.
Motion carries. And I would like to recognize the Middlebrook family. So with that, we're going to adjourn for a short 5-minute recess.
It never goes away. Have a good. Thank you all again.
All right, let's knock this out. All right, fellow board members, if you could return back to your seats. Need one more board member. All right, I'm going to call this meeting back to order. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the renaming of N.P. Moss Preparatory School.
Mr. President, Dr. Chasson's not here, but he was going to make a motion to defer this item.
Okay.
Because the Baranco family, he was not able to get in touch with them to come tonight.
Okay.
So if we could defer it to a future meeting. The school won't be open till next school year, so there's plenty of time. So
I'll second.
All right. I need one more board member to.
Britt's here.
Yep. All right. We have a motion on the floor by Ms. Morris, second by Ms. Morrison, to defer this item.
Dr. Chasson was unable to get in touch with the family to be here tonight, so if we can just defer it to a future meeting.
Do we have any public comment on the motion to defer item 3.2, the renaming of NP Moss, to another date? No public comment. Any board member comment? Madam Secretary, call for the vote. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Broussard, Dr. Chasson was not able to get in touch with the family to be here tonight, so we're going to defer.
Ms. Blanco, who else are we waiting on to vote? Morrison. Ms. Morrison, can you vote, please?
Eight for, none against.
All right, motion carries to defer. Next item on the agenda is 3.4, RFP for entities to provide contract bus drivers on call possessing required CDL licenses.
I'd like to make a motion that the board authorize an RFP to seek entities to bid to provide contract drivers on call that meet school bus CDL operator licenses.
So we have a motion by Mr. Latchley and a second by Mr. Hidalgo for staff to put an RFP out for entities to provide contract bus drivers on call who possess required CDL licenses. Do we have any public comment on this item? Any board member comment on this item? I have a comment on the item, and I will pass my gavel. My comment is that, you know, it's kind of like that fool me once, fool me twice thing. We need to be in a position where we can respond if we have a shortage of bus drivers. It turns out, and I'm not sure if it has been publicized, we had a significant number of resignations of bus drivers as we approached the first day of school. I guess anybody can quit when they want to, but it sure would have been nice had they quit in May, so we could have not counted on them. I find that to be very unprofessional, and they can hate me for it, but when you had the opportunity in May to tell us that you wanted to quit, and you waited till you put us in a bind in August right before we had the bus routes, you certainly let us down, you certainly let your kids down. Maybe you didn't care enough, and maybe we're better off not having you. But I don't want to be put in that position again. As a entity with a budget as big as ours and with a commitment to transport about 19,000 kids by bus every day, I think we need a contingency plan. One of those potential contingency plans is to put out a contract to one of our local transportation companies. There are plenty of local transportation companies within our parish, within our region, that have drivers that have CDLs who can be pre-approved, and we can run the same background checks and do all the same things that we do for bus drivers. But these people would be on call. We would obviously have to pay for that service. It would probably be a premium, but at least we won't leave kids standing at the bus stop and parents without an option to get their kids to school. So I recommend that staff put out an RFP as mentioned in the motion. Thank you. Mr. Hidalgo and then Mr. Angel.
Mr. President, I couldn't agree more. Dr. Aguilar, Mr. Craig, someone, we gave incentive pay last year. It wasn't straight up pay raises, was it? Or was it incentive pay?
From Mr. Veed, if I'm not mistaken, we did increase the rate for the substitute drivers. We added additional money to the operating costs for the contract drivers.
We gave all bus drivers an increase. I believe it was around $2,500, and then we also did a sick leave incentive pay, and we did an increase, not just, well, that added to the regular bus drivers, that gave the sub bus drivers a raise, as well as we cut back on the minimum number of days they had to drive to get that raise.
To get the high rate. On the sick leave incentive, Mr. Hammond, could we look and see if there's any way we can make that contingent upon them starting the next school year? So, for example, you get the benefit, you get the incentive if you don't quit a week before school starts, just to kind of help make that clear, because I totally agree that this, if nothing else, appeared to be intentional. You chomping at the bit, Mr. Santani?
Pay it in August.
Okay, that's
what
I'm asking.
If you don't pay it till August, you can't pay them if it don't work for you.
That's what I'm asking. Can we do that? Dr. Aguilar?
Mr. Hidalgo, we didn't find it effective, and so it's not in this year's budget.
Great. I'm done.
Ms. Morris.
Can we, Mr. Hammond, could we, and I'm not asking obviously to do it, but could we have, could the contract that we have with our bus drivers include some kind of a period that requires them to give us time before they leave, like 90 days or 60 days or something like that, and maybe put some kind of teeth in that kind of language?
Well, the problem is, how do you enforce it? I mean, you could try to write a contract that contained a clause for liquidated damages, but it'd be very difficult to enforce. I mean, you could structure the compensation such that they got paid at different times in the year in the hope that they would come back. I know, for example, there's one school system in North Louisiana that gives I think it's a $750 back-to-school check to get the individuals to come back in the fall. Because if they don't show up in the fall, then they're out $750 right there. And they have a pretty high percentage of return, and they haven't heard them have this particular issue. But, you know, the inability to find bus drivers is commonplace throughout the state. It's getting to be a larger and larger problem.
On behalf of bus drivers who have spoken to me, and that is, Now, I'm not talking about the ones that quit on us like that, but fewer and fewer insurance companies are writing insurance for these buses, and as a result, you can imagine the rates keep going up. So although we've given them some raises, et cetera, it not necessarily resulted in a net increase in pay due to some expenses that have increased.
Ms. Morris.
So it was my understanding that several, maybe a dozen of the bus drivers who were not available for the first day of school took some type of extended medical leave for a couple weeks before and a couple weeks after the start of school. So I just want to make sure, I believe that we have policies in place that when someone asks for so many medical days off, they bring in a doctor's excuse, but the school system has the authority to have them be examined by a doctor of the school board's choice as well. Because it just seems awfully coincidental to me that their medical condition extended to 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after the beginning of school, probably the toughest part of the school year for bus drivers. So I just want to make sure that the appropriate department is using those things that we already have in place to ensure that these people really do need their month off of medical at the start of school, and that it's not being taken advantage of because of a failure of the school system to enforce its own policies.
Mr. Hidalgo.
Mr. President, your motion clearly would fill a void, right? It would help with addressing an issue after it's happened, but I would like to challenge the administration to find something to try to help prevent. And I'm not saying you're not doing that. I just think we ought to jump on that heavy to help prevent what's happening. I do not want to punish a bus driver who wants to retire or wants to quit and go get a better job or who is sick. That's not what we're after. We've got a lot of good bus drivers. We just have a lot of bus drivers, and I don't think it's a coincidence that that many people left the system, whether it was retire, resign, or sick leave, 1 and 2 weeks before the start of school, and it caused problems today that would otherwise not have occurred. Okay, so this is an issue. I do believe it was intentional, and I think we need to address it to where we can send a clear message. This is, they're messing with parents and students, and it's not a game.
Mr. Latchley.
One thing along these lines, I've had conversations with some of my fellow board members through email that I want to work with staff on to bring back to the board is to have people in our system cross-trained. We have individuals in our system, whether it would be a custodian, a coach, a teacher, whomever, that can be bus driver qualified, that if we get in a bind, we can take this custodian or this coach in the morning and put them on a bus and get the route run. We have 5,000 employees within this system. We do it at the company I work for. We have individuals who can cover for other individuals, and I think that's something we need to look at in the future, of putting together a program within our own system to have individuals available to call at the last minute at specific schools. You could have people throughout the parish and throughout the district ready to go at a moment's notice. We can afford to not have a custodian at a school for 2 hours or 3 hours while they drive a bus route. We have plenty of coaches that can do it in the morning. They probably can't do it in the afternoon because of practice, but I think having the people available ready to go and trained gives us another option. And I hope this doesn't happen again. I hope it doesn't continue throughout the school year. But I think it's something we need to look at within our own system of having people cross-trained, because we could have had a bigger disaster. I mean, last year was not fun, and I really don't want to see that happen again. So that is something you can expect me to continue to work on, and I hope I get my fellow board members' support on trying to get 10, 20, 30 individuals within our system cross-trained with CDLs to be bus drivers at a moment's notice. Thank you.
It's a great idea. Dr. Chasson?
Mr. Latcher, I think
if the coaches that drive the activity buses are the ones that load them up like the basketball teams and get them there, they have CDLs, right?
Yes, sir. They're
so
appropriate.
I mean, we're like probably 90% of the way there. Just, I mean, they're already in the system with CDLs, the whole 9 yards. It just, as far as coordinating with various schools that, hey, this is the individual person, and they're not going to be here for the first 30 minutes or so. But I mean, we have tons of coaches.
And we actually, to Mr. Latchley's point, we actually do have some staff that we put one guy in maintenance on a route today. I got to thank Miss White over at NP Moss. Her staff has CDLs with the appropriate endorsement, and she contributed a couple folks to help us with routes for the next couple of days. So we have that. We absolutely need to expand the number of individuals that can run a route in the morning or the afternoon and help us out in these crunch times.
Ms. Morris.
So just very shortly, I see Mr. Larry Alexander in the audience. I just want to kind of segue on this a bit and propose that we consider looking at some type of pre-CDL training in our career tech development, because truck driving careers are out there. They're very good, and I think they'd be beneficial for a lot of our students. I'm not sure we'd want an 18 or 19-year-old driving our school buses, although they seem to for ULL, but it kind of goes along with the same topic that we can prepare some of our students for viable careers once they finish school.
Any other board member comment? Mr. Hidalgo.
I mean, I applaud suggestions for the Band-Aids, but I hope that we can find a way to prevent. I mean, am I incorrect in saying that on any given day, forget about the start of school, forget about what just happened, forget about what happened last year, on any given day we're 10 to 20% absenteeism, bus drivers. That's what I thought I heard at some point in time our transportation director say.
I don't know if that's a percentage or a raw number, but we have about 15 out on medical right now. I don't think that's 20% of that. We have 258, roughly 260 drivers, and about 15 are out due to retirement, resignations, and about 15 or so are out on medical leave right now.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Nine for, none against.
Yeah. And then she's got to record. Next item on the agenda is 3.7, review of feasibility for helicopter aviation certification at SLCC.
I'd like to make a motion that the board authorize the superintendent to collaborate with SLCC to investigate the feasibility of offering early college academy students access to the SLCC helicopter aviation certification program.
We have a motion by Mr. Latchley, second by Mr. Hidalgo for the review for feasibility of a helicopter aviation certification at SLCC. Any public comment on this item?
Good evening. I'm Darcy Baggs, the Dean of STEM, Transportation, and Energy at SLCC. Our Chancellor, Dr. Natalie Harder, asked me to come and just say a few words. Our aviation program just recently came into my division, so we are really making some changes and some improvements. And just a quick little background. I started my education career in Lafayette Parish School System, teaching for 11 years at Como High and Lafayette High when Ms. Aloisio's children were coming through the ranks. So the opportunity to continue these partnerships with Lafayette Parish Schools is a great opportunity. The aviation industry has huge shortages across the nation, and Acadiana region is right there among them. So any training that we can help provide for our students to prepare them for these jobs that are already there just waiting to be filled would be greatly benefited.
Mr. Centani.
Thank you for coming. Is there an extra fee for a full-time student of SLCC to participate or take the, I guess, get the helicopter aviation
There are
degree?
course fees to help with the cost of the flights.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and if there's no other public comment, then, ma'am, if you could just stay up there just in case we have any more questions. And I'm going to speak on it. So my son is in this program. My son is in the SLCC's aviation program. He's about a year into it. It's an 18-month program. At the end of 18 months, the student is a commercial helicopter pilot and commercial flight, or I think a CFI, I don't know if that's commercial or certified flight instructor. So they graduate after 18 months as helicopter pilots and instructors. The kicker is it's expensive. It's start to finish about a $90,000 program. Right. So it's good for our community. There's a huge pilot shortage in the world. There's a huge helicopter pilot shortage as the Vietnam era helicopter pilots are retiring. With that, it being so expensive, I think that it might be beneficial to us and to the community and to SLCC if we look into maybe some partnerships. We spend a lot of money every year. If we can open up an opportunity for juniors and seniors to experience this program and be willing to give up tuition money just like we do the charter schools and we do for ECA, we might be able to defer the cost to some of those students. Now with that, as a part of this it's not invested. Part of this review of feasibility, there's another component. There's a student loan component. Maybe there's a state funding component. Maybe there's a grant funding component. But the goal would be that we get some people looking at how can we maybe provide high school juniors and seniors with an opportunity to graduate with a diploma and get a job as a helicopter pilot immediately. I think that would be pretty cool. So, and I think it would be I can't imagine that there are many other public school systems out there that are graduating helicopter pilots. It might help be a boost to our career and technical program, but there's a lot of stuff that has to be done for us to get to that point with regards to assisting with tuition. How would we select students? Would we be willing, and how much of our MFP/tax dollars would we be willing to give up to assist in paying for all that? So that's that. Thank you. Mr. Angel.
Do you have any idea, and I don't remember the name of the college, but it's in Reston, Louisiana.
Louisiana Tech.
Louisiana Tech. Do you know if they have such a program? I know they have a lot of aviation programs.
Correct. And to my knowledge, I'm not sure if they have partnerships with the high schools or not.
But do they have a similar program is my question. They have a helicopter.
It's, I forget the name of it, but it is an aviation program.
And it's a similar price, you think? Similar?
Oh, yes, yes.
90,000.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. If there are no other board member comments, Madam Secretary, I'll call for the vote. And ladies and gentlemen, we have one item on the agenda after this one.
Nine for, none against.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, the last item on the agenda before we go into, it looks like some executive sessions, would be revised bond and pay-as-you-go project listing. Do I have a motion?
I have a motion, but I know there was some reporting Mr. Guidry needed to do on this. Should we let him report on it first, or should I do the motion?
Well, we do the motion, and then he can report, and then we can have public comment and then board member comment.
I'd like to make a motion that we add the following projects and related budgets to the revised bond and pay-as-you-go project listing. Scott Middle School cafeteria, $4 million. Southside High School football facility at the Broussard Sports Complex pursuant to a 10-year lease agreement for the use of facility with City of Broussard, $400,000. High school athletic facility upgrades at Northside, Como, Carencro, Lafayette and Acadiana High Schools at $100,000 per school for a total of $500,000.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Latchley and a second by Mr. Hidalgo. Can I see that real quick? Can I see your motion? And I'm just going to read the motion one more time. The motion is to add the following projects and related budgets to the revised bond and pay-as-you-go project listing. Scott Middle School cafeteria, $4 million. Southside High School facility at the Broussard Sports Complex pursuant to a 10-year lease agreement for the use of the facility with the City of Broussard, $400,000. High school athletic facility updates at Northside, Como, Carencro, Lafayette, and Acadian High Schools at $100,000 per school for a total of $500,000. Do we have any public comment on this item? No public comment. Any staff comment before I open it up to the board? Mr. Gidgey?
Well, with regards to the format of the project listing schedule, it begins with the original estimated cost, followed by the most recent board-approved project listing, and then the next column is a proposed adjustment. So these are the adjustments that the board is in fact approving, that are included in the motion, along with the proposed added projects mentioned by Mr. Latchley, to come up to the estimated cost as of the date of this meeting. So it's that final column that would be the, if approved, and if that would be the project listing going forward. So I just wanted to explain that to the board, see if there are any questions with regards to the report or its format.
Okay. Any other board member comment or questions regarding that report format or the motion? Madam Secretary, call for the vote. The motion for executive session. You got to read the. Yeah.
If you read all three, I am going to read all three.
Nine for, none against.
That concludes our regular business. The rest of the meeting will be an executive session, so we will go away into that room in a few minutes. There will be a short break after this meeting if you have anything to say to any of the board members before we go into that room.
Mr. President, I move that the board go into executive session to discuss item 4.1, consideration and/or action concerning pending litigation in the matter of Lisa Leday et al. Versus Lafayette Parish School Board et al. Case 2015-6246, Division C in the 15th Judicial District Court for Lafayette Parish. Item 4.2, consideration and/or action concerning pending litigation in the matter of Amanda Romero et al. Versus National Indemnity Company et al. Case 2016-4827, Division A in the 15th Judicial District Court for the Lafayette Parish. And item 4.3, consideration and/or action concerning pending litigation in the matter of Joshua Daigle versus National Liability and Fire Insurance Company et al. Case 2017-1972, Division C in the 15th Judicial District Court for the Parish of Lafayette.
We have a motion and a second to go in executive session for the cases Mr. Hidalgo read off. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we're in executive session.
want to go through regular aviation, not helicopter, but airplane. They want to have
Hey, Mark.
All right.
Well, it's going faster than I thought. And this is working much better. I don't know what they did or whatever they did. It's coming up pronto. Yeah.
drivers don't show up for work, we should look at it as a blessing. That's right. You cannot hit private vehicles if you're not driving a bus.
Change our mind quickly.
All right. I have heard a motion by Mr. Latchley to go back into regular session with a second by Mr. Hidalgo. 1, 2, 3. All in favor of going back into regular session? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. We're back in regular session.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the advice of counsel in action concerning pending litigation in the matter of Lisa Leday, in action concerning pending litigation in the matter of Amanda Romero, and action concerning pending litigation in the matter of Joshua Daigle.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Santani and a second by Ms. Morrison to accept counsel's recommendation in the matter of Lisa Leday, case number 2015-6246, Amanda Romero, case number 2016-4827, and Joshua Daigle, case number 2017-1972. All right. Mr. Santani agrees to the motion language. Ms. Morrison
Second.
Still has her second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Thank you. That concludes our business. Meeting's adjourned.